Somebody help me, please!
7-year-old Maya Johnson screamed until her throat burned raw. Blood ran down her knee, her mother's hand ripped away by the crowd. 10,000 strangers at the Georgia State Fair walked past her like she was invisible. 3 older kids shoved her to the ground. "Stupid baby, your mama left you on purpose." A woman glanced down, then kept walking. A police officer told her to wait. Nobody came. Nobody cared. Then Maya remembered her mother's rule. "Find the Hells Angels. They protect children." So this bleeding, terrified little black girl limped toward a gang of bikers covered in skulls and chains. And everything changed. Before we dive into this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. We'd love to see how far this story travels. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and stay with us until the very end, because this story will change the way you see the world. The crowd hit Maya like a wave. One moment, her small fingers were wrapped tight around her mother's hand. She could feel the warmth of Denise's palm, the familiar squeeze that meant, "I've got you, baby girl." The next moment, loss. A wall of bodies surged between them. Someone's elbow caught Maya in the shoulder. She stumbled backward, her sandal catching on the uneven ground. "Mama!" Her voice came out thin and weak. Music blasted from somewhere to her left. A man shouted about funnel cakes to her right. Laughter and screams from the roller coaster merged into one deafening roar. "Mama! Mama!" Nothing. No response. Just strangers pushing past her like she was invisible. She tried to move forward, but she was too small. Every direction looked the same. Legs and waists and elbows moving fast, moving everywhere, moving without seeing her. Someone knocked into her from behind. Maya went down hard. Her knees hit the pavement first. Pain shot up through her legs. Her palms scraped against something sticky. The yellow beads in her braids scattered across the ground. She tried to get up. Another body slammed into her shoulder. She fell again. Her knee was bleeding now. Her sunflower dress was smeared with dirt. Tears burned in her eyes. "Mama," she whispered. "Where are you?" The crowd kept moving. Feet stepped around her. Some stepped over her. One woman glanced down, made eye contact for half a second, then looked away and kept walking. Nobody stopped. Nobody helped. Maya pulled herself up slowly. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. She searched desperately for her mother's face, her mother's long braids, the butterfly tattoo on her mother's neck. All she saw were strangers. Then she heard the laughter. "Look at that!" Maya turned. 3 kids stood a few feet away. 2 boys and a girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old. The tallest boy had his arms crossed and a mean smile on his face. "Little baby lost her mommy," the girl giggled. "She's crying. Look, she's actually crying." "Baby, baby, baby," the smaller boy chanted. Maya bit her lip hard. "I'm not a baby." "What?" The tall boy cupped his hand around his ear. "Can't hear you over all that crying." "I said I'm not a baby." "Then why are you crying like one?" The girl stepped closer. "Where's your mommy, little baby? Did she leave you because you were too slow?" "Maybe she didn't want her anymore," the smaller boy added. "Maybe she ran away on purpose." Something cracked inside Maya's chest. Not her spirit, that was still burning. What cracked was her hope that anyone here would help her. The tall boy reached out and flicked one of her braids. "Nice hair, baby. Did your mommy do that before she abandoned you?" Maya flinched away, and that's when she remembered. Her mother's voice came back, clear as a bell. "Listen to me, Maya. If you ever get lost, really lost, and you can't find me, and you can't find a police officer, look for someone wearing motorcycle patches, especially Hell's Angels. Find them, baby. Tell them your name. Tell them your mama is Denise Johnson. They'll help you. I promise. Maya had asked why.
Why bikers?
Her friends at school said bikers were scary, but her mother had just smiled. Because they helped me once, baby girl, when nobody else would, and they never forget their own. Maya looked past the bullies toward the edge of the fairgrounds. There, beyond the bright lights, she could see a darker section, a low building with a flickering sign, a row of motorcycles gleaming under string lights. The Iron Horse. That's where they'd be. The tall boy stepped closer, blocking her view. Hey, I'm talking to you. Maya ducked around him and started walking. Hey! He grabbed at her arm but missed. Where do you think you're going? She kept walking. Stupid baby, the girl called after her. You're going to get even more lost. Maya didn't turn around. Her knee hurt with every step. Her sock was wet with blood. She'd lost one sandal somewhere, and the hot pavement burned her bare foot. But she kept walking because her mother told her what to do. And Maya trusted her mother more than anything in the world. The path felt endless. Maya ducked under elbows, squeezed between legs, made herself as small as possible. Most people didn't notice her. A few frowned and stepped around her. One woman stopped. Honey, are you okay? Maya looked up. The woman had kind eyes. But then a man appeared beside her. Come on, Linda, we're going to miss the fireworks. But this little girl, kids wander off all the time. She's fine. The woman hesitated. Are you sure you're okay, sweetie? Maya nodded, not because she was okay, but because she could see the woman already being pulled away. Okay, well, be careful. Gone. Maya kept walking. The crowd thinned, the music faded. In its place came a different sound. The low rumble of engines, the clink of bottles, deep voices. She could see them now. A group of maybe 15 people gathered outside the bar. Men and women wearing black leather vests covered in patches. Some had tattoos crawling up their arms. Others wore bandanas or sunglasses, even though the sun had set. Maya stopped at the edge of the parking lot. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around. But there was no one else. And her mother had promised. She took one step forward, then another. A young biker with a shaved head noticed her first. He elbowed the guy next to him and nodded in her direction. Now others were turning to look. Maya's legs felt like they might collapse, but she kept moving. Her bare foot sank into gravel. A sharp rock bit into her heel. A massive man stepped forward from the group. He was the biggest person Maya had ever seen. His shoulders blocked out the light behind him. Tattoos covered his arms from wrist to shoulder. A scar ran across his left cheek. But his eyes weren't angry. They were concerned. Hey there, little one. His voice was deep and rough, but underneath it, something gentle. Maya opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The man crouched down slowly, bringing himself to her eye level. You okay? Looks like you've had a rough night. Maya's lip trembled. Don't cry, don't cry. A tear slid down her cheek anyway. I lost my mama. The man's expression shifted. Something moved behind his eyes. What's your name, sweetheart? Maya. Maya Johnson. That's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus. People call me Big Marcus. He gestured to himself with a small smile. Bet you can figure out why? Despite everything, Maya almost smiled too. Can you tell me your mama's name? What does she look like? Denise. Denise Johnson. She has long braids like mine, and a butterfly tattoo right here. Maya pointed to her neck. She was wearing a blue shirt. We were by the cotton candy and then everyone pushed and I fell and... Her voice broke. Big Marcus held up a hand gently. It's okay. You're doing great. You did exactly the right thing coming to find us.
My mama told me to. She said if I ever got lost, find people with motorcycle patches. Find Hell's Angels. She said you'd help me.
Big Marcus went very still. Behind him, someone drew a sharp breath. Your mama told you that? Maya nodded. Denise Johnson told you to find the Hell's Angels. Another nod. Big Marcus turned his head, catching the eye of a woman who had moved closer. She was tall, with silver-streaked locks falling past her shoulders. Her eyes seemed to see through everything. Raven, you hearing this? The woman stepped forward. Her boots made no sound. She moved like smoke. She crouched next to Big Marcus. Denise Johnson, Raven repeated. That's your mama's name? Yes, ma'am. And she told you to find us if you ever got lost. Yes, ma'am. She said you helped her once. She said you never forget your own. Raven's eyes widened. She exchanged a look with Big Marcus. How old are you, Maya? 7. I just turned 7 in June. And how old is your mama? Maya thought. 32, I think. She had a birthday in March. We made a cake with strawberries. Raven closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were glistening. 12 years, she whispered. Has it really been 12 years? You know my mama? Raven reached out and touched one of Maya's braids gently. I think I might, baby girl. I think I might. Big Marcus stood and let out a sharp whistle. Every biker turned to face him instantly. Listen up. Missing parent situation. Mother's name is Denise Johnson. Black female, long braids, butterfly tattoo on her neck, blue shirt. Last seen near the cotton candy stand. This is her daughter, Maya. He looked down at Maya, and she's one of ours. Those 4 words changed everything. Maya felt it, a shift in the energy. The bikers who had been relaxed moments before were now alert, focused, ready. Tiny, take the east side near the Ferris wheel. Joker, Ghost, you've got the food courts. Preacher, check the main entrance with 2 guys. Rest of you fan out from the fun house to the parking lots. What about the cops? Someone asked. Big Marcus's jaw tightened. We'll find her faster. Move out. Within seconds, the parking lot emptied. Bikers scattered into the night like wolves vanishing into a forest. Only Big Marcus, Raven, and a few others remained. Raven offered Maya her hand. Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you cleaned up. Maya looked at that hand. Long fingers, silver rings, dark red nails. A hand that had seen things, survived things. A hand that felt safe. Maya took it. Inside the bar, they sat her on a bench. Raven returned with a first aid kit, a juice box, and a damp cloth. Let me see that knee. The cut wasn't deep. Raven cleaned it gently, applied ointment, covered it with a bandage that had cartoon characters on it. You keep these around? Maya asked. Raven smiled slightly. Never know when you might need to patch up a warrior. Am I a warrior? Baby girl, you walked through that whole fair by yourself with a bleeding knee to find help. You didn't give up. You didn't panic. You remembered what your mama told you and did exactly what you were supposed to. Raven's eyes met hers. That's the definition of a warrior. Something warm bloomed in Maya's chest. Not quite happiness. She was still too scared. But close. Something like hope. Big Marcus paced near the door, phone pressed to his ear. Yeah, Denise Johnson. No photo yet. Keep looking. Call me the second you find anything. He hung up and turned. Raven. I know. You really think it's her? After all this time? Raven stroked Maya's braids gently. 12 years ago, she said, we found a woman on Route 23, middle of a thunderstorm. Car broken down. She was young, maybe 19, 20, pregnant, and hurt. Maya looked up sharply. Hurt? Raven hesitated. She glanced at Big Marcus, who gave a small nod. She had bruises on her arms, on her face. She'd been crying, but trying so hard to be brave. What happened to her? We helped her, fixed her car, gave her money to get somewhere safe. I sat with her in the back seat while the guys worked on the engine. Raven paused. She was so scared, Maya. Scared of what was behind her, but brave, too. Brave enough to run. Maya's heart beat faster. That was my mama? I don't know for certain, but she had long braids, just like yours, and she kept touching her neck, right here. Raven touched the spot. She said she wanted to get a tattoo someday. Something with wings, something that meant freedom. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I told her something that night, Raven said softly. I told her whatever she was running from, she never had to go back. I told her she was stronger than she knew. She is, Maya whispered. She's the strongest person I know. She raised you by herself? Yes, ma'am. My daddy, he's not around. Mama says we don't need him. She says we're enough. Just the two of us. Raven pulled her into a hug. Maya buried her face in the woman's leather vest. We're going to find her, Raven promised. We're going to bring her back to you. What if you can't? What if she's... Hey. Raven pulled back and held Maya's face in her hands. Your mama survived things most people can't even imagine. She built a whole new life. She raised a warrior daughter. A woman like that doesn't just disappear. We will find her. Big Marcus's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. Talk to me. His face changed. Where? How far? Keep her there. We're coming. He hung up. They found her. Maya's heart stopped. Where? North entrance. She was arguing with a cop, trying to get him to help search. Preacher's with her now. They're bringing her here. Maya was off the bench before anyone could react. She ran for the door, ignoring her knee, ignoring everything. Mama, Mama, Mama. She burst outside, and there she was. Denise Johnson stood between two bikers. Her face was tear-streaked. Her eyes were wild with fear and desperate hope. Her blue shirt was wrinkled and damp with sweat. Her braids had come loose. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in an hour. Then she saw Maya. Maya! Mama! They ran toward each other. Denise dropped to her knees as Maya crashed into her arms. They held each other so tight, nothing in the world could separate them again. Oh, baby. Oh, my baby girl, I'm so sorry. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find you. I thought I remembered, Mama. Maya was crying now, letting out all the fear she'd held inside. I remembered what you told me. I found the motorcycle people. I found them just like you said. Denise pulled back to look at her daughter's face. She cupped Maya's cheeks, wiping away tears. You found them? They helped me, Mama. They cleaned my knee and gave me juice and said everyone to look for you. They said I was a warrior. Denise laughed through her tears. You are, baby. You are. She looked up past Maya toward the bikers gathered around them. Her eyes moved from face to face until they landed on Raven. The world stopped. Denise rose slowly, still holding Maya's hand. She stared at Raven like she was seeing a ghost. It's you. Raven stepped forward. It's been a long time, Denise. 12 years. 12 years. Raven's voice was thick. You look good. Strong. Nothing like that scared girl we found on Route 23. Denise's hand flew to her butterfly tattoo. I got it 3 months after that night. Every time I look at it, I remember what you told me. That I never had to go back. That I was stronger than I knew. And were you? Stronger than you knew? I went to nursing school, got my degree. I work at the VA hospital now, taking care of veterans. She smiled through tears. I raised this amazing little girl by myself. I built a life. A real life. What about him? The one you were running from? Denise's jaw tightened. He found me once. 2 years after that night. Showed up at my apartment in Atlanta, drunk, angry, saying I belonged to him. Maya felt her mother's hand tighten around hers. What did you do? I called the police, filed a restraining order, testified in court. Denise lifted her chin. He's in prison now. Has been for 8 years. He can't hurt us anymore. Raven's eyes glistened. I'm so proud of you. So damn proud. She pulled Denise into a fierce hug. Big Marcus stood off to the side, watching with an expression almost soft on his scarred face. The other bikers had formed a protective circle around them, facing outward, making sure no one disturbed this moment. Maya looked at all of them. Thank you, she said. Thank you for helping me. Big Marcus crouched down to her level. You never have to thank us, little warrior. That's what family does. Family? Your mama helped us understand something a long time ago, helped us remember why we do what we do. That makes her family, and that makes you family too. What did she help you understand? Big Marcus glanced at Raven, then back at Maya. That night on Route 23, we were on our way back from a funeral. One of our brothers had died. Overdose. We were angry, hurt. Some of the guys wanted to do something stupid, something we'd regret. He paused. Then we saw your mama's car on the side of the road, broke down, and we had a choice. Keep driving and stay in our pain, or stop and help someone who needed us. You stopped. We stopped. And helping your mama, seeing her so scared but so brave, seeing her fight for herself and her baby, it reminded us what we're supposed to be. Not outlaws, not criminals. Protectors. That's what the club was always meant to be. Maya didn't fully understand, but she understood the warmth in his eyes, the protective circle around her, the way Raven still held her mother. She understood she had been lost. Now she was found. A commotion broke out near the edge of the parking lot. A police officer pushed through the crowd. Maya recognized him. He was the same one who had brushed off her mother earlier. "Ma'am," he called out, walking toward them with an annoyed expression. "We got reports of a disturbance. Everything under control here?" Denise turned, one arm still around Maya. "Everything's fine, officer." The cop looked at the circle of leather vests surrounding them. His hand moved to his belt. "These people bothering you?" "Bothering me?" Denise's voice went cold. "These people found my daughter in under 20 minutes, while you told me to wait and see if she turned up." "Ma'am, I was following protocol." "Protocol?" She stepped toward him, and Maya had never seen her mother look so fierce. "My 7-year-old daughter was lost in a crowd of thousands. She was bleeding. She was scared. She was being bullied by other kids, and you told me kids wander off all the time." "I didn't say—" "You said she'd probably turn up near the toy booths. You said it wasn't uncommon. You said to wait." The officer's face reddened. "Look, I can't search the entire fair for every kid who—" "You didn't have to." Denise pointed at the bikers. "They did. They organized a search party in seconds. They fanned out across the fairgrounds. They found her and kept her safe and brought her back to me." "Ma'am, these are Hell's Angels. Do you know who you're dealing with?" Big Marcus stepped forward. The officer's hand twitched toward his holster. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with," Denise said. "The question is, do you?" Silence. The officer looked around at the faces watching him. Bikers, carnival workers who had stopped to see what was happening, a few families who had wandered over from the fair. "We're done here," he muttered finally. He turned and walked away without another word. A beat passed. Then one of the bikers let out a low whistle. "Damn, Mama Bear's got claws." Laughter rippled through the group. Denise's shoulders relaxed. She pulled Maya close again. "Can we go home now?" Maya whispered. "Soon, baby, soon." "Actually," Big Marcus said, "how about we walk you to your car? Getting late, and the crowds are still thick." Denise hesitated. Then she nodded. They moved together through the fairgrounds, mother and daughter surrounded by a circle of leather and chrome. People stared. Some whispered. Some pulled their children closer. But Maya noticed something else, too. Some people smiled. One old man standing by a lemonade cart tipped his hat as they passed. A young mother with a stroller gave a small wave. A teenage boy wearing a fair worker's uniform watched them with something like admiration in his eyes. Not everyone was afraid. They reached the parking lot where Denise's old Honda sat waiting. "Thank you," Denise said, turning to face the group. "I don't know how to... I can never repay." Raven shook her head. "You already did. 12 years ago. You reminded us who we're supposed to be." She glanced at Maya. "And tonight, this little warrior reminded us again." "Will I see you again?" Maya asked. Raven smiled. "You know where to find us." Big Marcus handed Denise a card. "That's got my number on it. Anything you ever need, anything at all, you call." Denise took the card. Her fingers trembled slightly. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why do you do this? People say such things about you. The newspapers, the TV." Big Marcus was quiet for a moment. "People see the leather and the bikes, and they make up their minds. They don't see the toy drives at Christmas. They don't see the veterans' rides. They don't see us sitting with kids who've been abused, making sure they know someone's got their back." He shrugged. "We ain't perfect. Some of us have done things we're not proud of. But at our core, we protect people, especially kids. That's the code. That's always been the code." Denise nodded slowly. Maybe people should know that. The real you." "Maybe someday they will." She loaded Maya into the car and buckled her seatbelt. Then she turned back one last time. "Raven." "Yeah?" "What you told me that night, about being stronger than I knew." Denise touched her butterfly tattoo. "I think about it every single day. It saved my life. I just wanted you to know that." Raven's composure cracked. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Go home, Denise. Hug that beautiful girl, get some sleep." She smiled. "And maybe we'll see you around Riverside sometime." Denise got in the car, started the engine, pulled away slowly. Maya twisted in her seat to look out the back window. The bikers stood in a line, watching them go. Big Marcus raised one hand in farewell. Maya waved back and kept waving until they disappeared into the night. Across the street, a man stood in the doorway of a small diner called Honey's Kitchen. His name was Clarence Webb. He was 68 years old. He'd owned this diner for 40 years, built it with his own hands, served 3 generations of the Riverside community. He'd come outside when he heard the commotion. Expected trouble. That's what he always expected when those leather vests showed up. But what he saw was something else. He watched the little girl run to her mother. He watched them hold each other like the world was ending. He watched the bikers form their circle, not threatening, not aggressive, but protective. gentle even. He watched that cop walk up with his hand on his belt and his judgment in his eyes. He watched the mother tear into him. He watched the cop walk away with his tail between his legs. And he watched them escort the woman and child to their car like a presidential motorcade. With dignity, with respect, with something that looked an awful lot like love. Clarence had been afraid of Hell's Angels his whole life. His daddy had told him stories. The news had told him more. He'd spent 40 years tensing up whenever those motorcycles rumbled past his diner, praying they wouldn't stop, wouldn't cause trouble, wouldn't scare away his customers. But tonight he'd seen something different. Tonight he'd seen a little black girl, couldn't be more than 6 or 7, walk up to the most dangerous-looking people at the fair and ask for help. And they'd given it. Not for money, not for recognition, not for anything except the simple fact that a child was lost and scared and needed someone. Clarence rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. Maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong. Maybe everybody had. He turned and went back inside. But he didn't stop thinking about what he'd seen. Not that night, not the next morning, not for a long time after. Because some things, once you see them, you can't unsee. And Clarence Webb had just seen something that was going to change everything he thought he knew. In her bedroom that night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her knee bandaged, her braids undone, her mother's arms wrapped tight around her. They'd been lying like this for an hour. Neither of them wanted to let go. "Mama?" "Yeah, baby?" "Tell me about that night. The night they helped you." Denise was quiet for a long moment. "You sure you want to hear it?" "Yes, ma'am." Another pause. Then Denise pulled her closer. "I was 19 years old, pregnant with you, and I was running away from someone who hurt me very badly." "My daddy?" "Yes." "Did he hit you?" Denise's voice caught. "Yes, baby, he did." "Is that why you left?" "That's why I left. I waited too long. I should have left sooner. But I was scared. I didn't have any money, didn't have anywhere to go. He cut me off from my family, my friends. I felt like I was trapped." "What changed?" "You." Denise stroked her daughter's hair. "The moment I found out I was pregnant with you, everything changed. I knew I couldn't let you grow up in that house. I couldn't let you see that. I couldn't let him hurt you the way he hurt me." "So you ran?" "I ran, middle of the night. Took nothing but the clothes on my back and the car he'd bought me. Drove as fast as I could, as far as I could, until the car broke down on Route 23. And then the motorcycle people came." "And then the motorcycle people came." Denise smiled at the memory. "I was so scared when I saw them, Maya. Big, scary men on big, scary bikes. I thought maybe I'd escaped one nightmare just to fall into another." "But they helped you." "They helped me. They fixed my car, gave me money. And Raven, she sat with me in the back seat while the men worked. She held my hand. She told me I was brave. She told me I was strong. She told me I never had to go back." "Did you believe her?" "Not at first, but every time I wanted to give up, every time things got hard and I thought about going back to your daddy, I heard her voice in my head. You never have to go back. You're stronger than you know." Denise kissed the top of Maya's head. "So I kept going. For you. For us." "Mama?" "Yeah, baby?" "I want to be like you when I grow up." Denise's arms tightened. "You already are, baby. You already are." Outside the window, the moon hung full and bright over Riverside, Georgia. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, new looks from neighbors who had heard about what happened at the fair. But tonight, in this small bedroom, a mother and daughter held each other close, safe, together, exactly where they belonged. Clarence Webb couldn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his wife Martha snoring softly beside him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same thing, that little girl running to her mother, those bikers forming a circle around them, that cop walking away with his tail between his legs. At 4:30 in the morning, he gave up trying to sleep. He got out of bed quietly, made himself a cup of coffee, and sat on the porch watching the sun come up over Riverside. 40 years he'd owned Honey's Kitchen. 40 years he'd served this community. 40 years he'd believed certain things about certain people. Maybe he'd been wrong. The thought bothered him more than he wanted to admit. At 5:30, he drove to the diner to start his usual prep work. Biscuits didn't make themselves. Neither did the gravy his customers loved so much. By 6 o'clock, the first regulars started trickling in. Old farmers who'd been coming since before Clarence's hair turned gray. Church ladies who met every Saturday morning to gossip over eggs and bacon. Young families grabbing breakfast before soccer games. Clarence moved through his routine on autopilot. Pour coffee, take orders, crack jokes with the regulars. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. "You okay, boss?" Clarence looked up. His waitress, a young woman named Tamika, was staring at him with concern. "Fine, why?" "You just poured orange juice into Mrs. Patterson's coffee." Clarence looked down. Sure enough, the cup in front of the elderly woman was now a strange brown-orange color. Mrs. Patterson was staring at it like it might bite her. "Lord have mercy." Clarence grabbed the cup. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Patterson. Let me get you a fresh one." "You feeling all right, Clarence?" Mrs. Patterson asked. "You look like you didn't sleep a wink." "Just got a lot on my mind." He retreated to the kitchen, poured the ruined coffee down the drain, and leaned against the counter. What was wrong with him? He knew what was wrong. He just didn't want to admit it. The bell above the door jingled. Clarence heard Tamika greet someone, then heard footsteps approaching the counter. "Morning, Clarence." He turned. Sheriff Bobby Tate stood there in his freshly pressed uniform, hat in hand, smile on his face. Bobby had been sheriff for 12 years now. Good man, fair man. Went to the same church as Clarence. "Morning, Bobby. The usual?" "You know it. 2 eggs over easy, bacon crispy, biscuits with extra gravy." Clarence started preparing the order. Bobby sat at the counter watching him. "Heard there was some excitement at the fair last night," Bobby said casually. Clarence's hands paused for just a second. "That's so?" "Yeah, little girl got lost. Her mama was raising hell trying to find her. Apparently some bikers helped out." "I heard something about that." Bobby leaned forward. "Hell's Angels, Clarence. Can you believe that? They're saying a bunch of Hell's Angels found this kid and reunited her with her mother." "Is that a bad thing?" Bobby laughed. "Bad thing? No, I suppose not. Just unexpected. Those boys aren't exactly known for their community service, if you know what I mean." Clarence set the plate down in front of Bobby. "Maybe we don't know them as well as we think we do." Bobby looked up sharply. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just saying. Maybe people can surprise you." Bobby studied him for a long moment. Then he shrugged and dug into his eggs. "Whatever you say, Clarence. Whatever you say." The morning rush continued. Clarence tried to focus on his work, but the conversation with Bobby kept nagging at him. The way the sheriff had laughed, the dismissive tone. "Those boys aren't exactly known for their community service." But Clarence had seen what he'd seen. Around 9 o'clock, the bell jingled again. Clarence looked up and felt his heart skip a beat. Denise Johnson walked in, holding Maya's hand. The little girl looked different in the daylight. Her hair was freshly braided, the yellow beads replaced with new ones. She wore a clean dress and a bright smile. The only evidence of last night's ordeal was a small bandage on her knee. Denise spotted Clarence and gave a small wave. He waved back, then watched as they slid into a booth near the window. Tamika grabbed 2 menus and headed over. Clarence pretended to wipe down the counter while straining to hear their conversation. "Morning, ladies. What can I get you started with?" "Coffee for me," Denise said. "And a hot chocolate for my daughter, please." "Coming right up. You two celebrating something? That little one's smile is bright enough to light up the whole diner." Maya giggled. "We had an adventure last night." "An adventure? That sounds exciting." "I got lost at the fair, but then I found the motorcycle people and they helped me find my mama." Tamika's eyebrows rose. "Motorcycle people?" "Hell's Angels," Maya said proudly. "They're my friends now." The diner went quiet. Clarence noticed several heads turning. Mrs. Patterson's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. Sheriff Bobby stopped chewing mid-bite. Even the farmers in the corner booth were staring. Tamika recovered first. "Well, that's quite a story, sweetheart. I'll get those drinks for you." She hurried back to the counter, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to Clarence. "I heard. Hell's Angels? Those scary biker guys? They helped a little girl?" Before Clarence could respond, the bell jingled again, and the diner went completely silent. Big Marcus walked in first. Behind him came Raven, then 2 other bikers Clarence didn't recognize. They wore their leather vests proudly, patches gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Every eye in Honey's kitchen was on them. Big Marcus scanned the room. His gaze landed on Denise and Maya. A smile broke across his scarred face. "There's our little warrior." Maya jumped out of the booth and ran toward him. "Big Marcus!" He crouched down and caught her in a hug. "Hey there, sweetheart. How are you feeling today?" "Good. My knee doesn't even hurt anymore. Mama said I was so brave." "You were. Bravest kid I ever met." Denise had risen from the booth. She walked over to the group, her expression warm but cautious. She could feel the tension in the room. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "You didn't have to." "We wanted to check on our girl," Raven said. "Make sure she's doing okay." She woke up smiling. First thing she said was, "When can I see my biker friends again?" Big Marcus laughed. "Well, here we are." The moment stretched. The diner remained frozen. Clarence could feel the discomfort radiating from his customers, the whispered judgments, the nervous glances. And suddenly, he'd had enough. He stepped out from behind the counter and walked toward the group. Every eye in the diner followed him. Big Marcus straightened, his expression guarded. Clarence knew what he was thinking. Here it comes, the manager telling us to leave, the request to take our business elsewhere. But Clarence did something different. He extended his hand. "I'm Clarence Webb. I own this diner. I saw what you folks did last night at the fair." Big Marcus looked at the offered hand for a moment, then he took it. His grip was firm, but not aggressive. "Marcus. People call me Big Marcus." "I can see why." Clarence almost smiled. "I want you to know, I've been running this place for 40 years. Fed a lot of people in that time. But I'm ashamed to say, if you'd walked in here yesterday, I probably would have been nervous. Probably would have watched you like a hawk, waiting for trouble." The diner was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "But last night," Clarence continued, "I saw something. I saw a little girl who was lost and scared run to you for help, and I saw you help her. No questions asked, no hesitation. You just helped." His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. "My granddaughter is about her age. She's got the same smile, the same braids. And I keep thinking, what if it had been her? What if my grandbaby got lost in that crowd? Would anyone have helped her? He looked at Big Marcus, then at Raven, then at the other bikers. You would have. I know that now. So I want to say something I should have said a long time ago to a lot of people I judged without knowing them. He took a breath. Welcome to Honey's Kitchen. Your breakfast is on the house, today and any day you want to come back. The words hung in the air. Big Marcus stared at him. Something shifted in those hard eyes. Something softened. That's real kind of you, Mr. Webb. Clarence. Call me Clarence. Raven stepped forward. Her eyes were glistening. You don't know what this means. Most places we go, people cross the street to avoid us. They pull their children closer. They look at us like we're monsters. Maybe they just don't know you yet. Maybe they don't want to. Clarence nodded slowly. Maybe that's been the problem all along. Maybe we've all been so busy being scared of what we don't understand that we forgot to just look. Really look. He turned to face the rest of the diner, his customers, his friends, his community. These folks are welcome here, he announced, his voice carrying to every corner. Anyone got a problem with that? They can take their business elsewhere. Silence. Then, slowly, Mrs. Patterson set down her coffee cup and started clapping. It was soft at first, hesitant. But then the farmers in the corner joined in. Then Tamika. Then a young mother with 2 kids. Then more and more, until the whole diner was applauding. Big Marcus looked genuinely stunned. What's happening? Maya asked, tugging on his hand. He looked down at her, this fierce warrior of a man, and Clarence could swear he saw moisture in those eyes. Something good, little one. Something real good. They settled into the large corner booth. Clarence personally took their orders. Eggs, bacon, biscuits, pancakes, the works. He made sure they got the best of everything. As he cooked, he noticed something remarkable happening. One by one, customers started approaching the bikers' table. The young mother came first, baby on her hip. I just wanted to say, my sister's kid got lost at a mall last year. Took security 2 hours to find him. What you did in 20 minutes? That's incredible. Big Marcus nodded. We've got a system. When a kid's in trouble, nothing else matters. An old farmer shuffled over next. Name's Earl. Been coming here since Clarence's daddy ran the place. I ain't never talked to a Hell's Angel before, but I figure any friend of Clarence's is a friend of mine. He extended a weathered hand. Big Marcus shook it. Even Tamika lingered at their table longer than necessary, asking questions, listening to stories, laughing at jokes Clarence couldn't hear from the kitchen. Only one person didn't join the warming atmosphere. Sheriff Bobby Tate. He sat at the counter watching everything with narrowed eyes. His breakfast sat untouched, growing cold. His jaw was tight. Clarence noticed. Something wrong with the eggs, Bobby? The sheriff turned. You sure about this, Clarence? Inviting these people in, treating them like VIPs? I'm sure. You know what Hell's Angels are, right? You know what they do? Clarence set down his spatula. I know what the news says they do. I know what rumors say, but I also know what I saw with my own eyes last night, and that counts for more than gossip. It's not gossip, it's fact. These are criminals, Clarence. Drug dealers, weapons traffickers. Violence follows them wherever they go. Does that look like violence to you? Clarence nodded toward the corner booth, where Maya was showing Raven how to make a paper airplane. Does that little girl look scared? Bobby's jaw tightened further. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. This is my diner, Bobby. Has been for 40 years. And in 40 years, I've never told a paying customer they weren't welcome. I'm not about to start now. The sheriff stood abruptly. He threw a 20 on the counter. Keep the change. And Clarence? Yeah? Don't say I didn't warn you. He walked out without looking back. The bell jingled behind him. Clarence watched him go, then turned back to the kitchen. His hands were shaking slightly. He'd known Bobby Tate for 30 years. They'd been friends. Good friends. But some things mattered more than friendship. You okay? Raven had appeared at the counter. Clarence hadn't even heard her approach. Fine, just... that was harder than I expected. The sheriff? He's not a bad man, just set in his ways. Like I was, until last night. Raven studied him. What changed? For you, I mean. What made you decide to... Welcome you? Clarence finished. He thought about it for a moment. My granddaughter, like I said. When I saw that little girl last night, all I could think about was Jasmine. She's 6, smart as a whip, just like Maya. And I thought, what if it was her? What if my Jasmine was lost and scared and bleeding? He swallowed hard. And then I thought, what if the only people who stopped to help her were people I'd taught her to be afraid of? What if I'd spent her whole life telling her to stay away from bikers, stay away from people who look different, stay away from anyone who doesn't fit the mold? And what if that fear kept her from finding the one person who could save her? Raven was quiet for a long moment. That's a powerful thought. It's a terrifying thought. We teach our children to be afraid. We think we're protecting them, but maybe we're just limiting them, limiting their world, limiting who they can trust, who they can love, who they can become. So you decided to stop being afraid. I decided to stop letting fear make my decisions. There's a difference. Raven smiled. It transformed her entire face. You're a wise man, Clarence Webb. I'm a stubborn old fool who took 68 years to learn something that little girl already knows. And what's that? Clarence looked over at Maya, who was now teaching Big Marcus a clapping game, her small hands slapping against his massive palms in a complicated rhythm. That people are just people. Doesn't matter what they wear, or what they ride, or what patches they've got on their jackets. What matters is what they do when it counts. The morning stretched into afternoon. The bikers stayed longer than Clarence expected. More customers came in, some curious about the commotion, others just hungry for lunch. Word had started spreading through town. Hell's Angels at Honey's Kitchen. Clarence Webb welcoming them like old friends. Some people came to see for themselves. Some came to show support. A few came to glare disapprovingly before leaving without ordering. Clarence didn't care about the last group. Around 2 o'clock, Denise announced that they needed to get Maya home for a nap. The little girl protested loudly. But I'm not tired. I want to stay with Big Marcus and Raven. You can see them again, baby, but you need rest. You had a big adventure. Promise? Denise looked at the bikers. If they want to see us again. Big Marcus crouched down to Maya's level. Little warrior, you're family now. That means we're not going anywhere. You understand? Maya nodded solemnly. Family. That's right. And family looks out for each other. So you go home, get some rest, and we'll see you real soon. Deal? Deal. She hugged him tight. Then Raven. Then the other 2 bikers, who looked almost embarrassed by the affection. Denise shook each of their hands. I don't know how to thank you for last night, for today, for everything. You already thanked us, Raven said. 12 years ago, when you showed us who we could be. Denise's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, unable to speak, and led Maya out of the diner. The bell jingled behind them. Big Marcus watched them go, his expression unreadable. "That's a good woman," he said quietly. "Strong, after everything she went through."
"What did she go through?" Clarence asked. "If you don't mind me asking."
Raven and Big Marcus exchanged a look.
"It's not our story to tell," Raven said finally. "But let's just say she earned every bit of that strength. The hard way."
Clarence nodded. He understood. Some stories weren't meant to be shared. Some pain was private. "Well," he said, "she's always welcome here. Her and Maya both. And so are you. I meant what I said earlier. Anytime you want a meal, you come to Honey's Kitchen. We'll take care of you." Big Marcus stood and extended his hand. "Clarence Webb, I've met a lot of people in my life. Good ones, bad ones, everything in between. But I don't think I've ever met anyone quite like you." Clarence shook his hand. "I could say the same about you." The bikers headed for the door, but before they left, Raven turned back. "Clarence? Yeah? That sheriff, Bobby Tate. He's not going to let this go. I know. He's got friends, power. He could make things difficult for you." Clarence straightened his apron.
"Let him try. I've been in this town longer than he's been alive. I've survived worse than a sheriff with a grudge."
Raven smiled.
"I believe you have."
The bell jingled one final time, and then they were gone. Clarence stood alone in his diner, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, the smell of coffee and bacon still lingering in the air. Tamika appeared beside him.
"That was something, boss."
"It was."
"You think they'll come back?"
Clarence thought about Maya's smile, about Denise's tears, about Big Marcus's firm handshake and Raven's knowing eyes. "Yeah," he said. "I think they will."
"And you think the sheriff's going to cause trouble?"
Clarence thought about Bobby's cold eyes, his warning. The way he'd thrown that 20 on the counter like it burned his hand.
"Yeah, I think he will."
Tamika nodded slowly.
"So what do we do?"
Clarence turned to face her. This young woman who had worked for him for 3 years, who he trusted with his customers, his kitchen, his legacy. "We do what we've always done," he said. "We serve good food to good people. We treat everyone who walks through that door with respect. And we don't let fear decide who deserves kindness and who doesn't."
"Even if it costs us?"
Clarence looked around his diner. The tables he'd wiped down 10,000 times. The counter where he'd served 3 generations of the same families. The kitchen where he'd learned to cook at his father's side. Some things are worth the cost. Tamika smiled.
"You're a good man, Clarence Webb."
"I'm trying to be. That's all any of us can do." The afternoon faded into evening. Customers came and went. The dinner rush brought its usual chaos, but something had changed in Honey's Kitchen. Something had changed in Clarence. And somewhere across town, in a small house with yellow curtains, a 7-year-old girl slept peacefully in her mother's arms, dreaming of motorcycles and angels and a world where the scariest-looking people turned out to be the kindest. She didn't know that a storm was coming. None of them did. But for now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Family, found in the most unexpected places, protected by the most unlikely guardians. And that was enough. The storm came 3 days later. Clarence was flipping pancakes when he heard the sirens. Not 1, not 2. At least 5 police cars screaming down Main Street at 7:30 in the morning. Tamika rushed to the window.
"What's going on out there?"
"Nothing good," Clarence muttered. His phone buzzed, a text from his wife, Martha.
turn on the news. Now.
He grabbed the remote and switched on the old TV mounted above the counter. The morning news filled the screen. Breaking news out of Riverside, Georgia. Sheriff Bobby Tate has announced a major crackdown on what he calls criminal motorcycle gang activity in the region. We go live to Sheriff Tate's press conference. Clarence's blood went cold. Bobby stood behind a podium, flanked by deputies. His face was stern. Righteous. Citizens of Riverside, I stand before you today to address a growing threat to our community. Over the past week, members of the Hells Angels motorcycle gang have been spotted in our town. They've been seen at local businesses. They've been interacting with our children. Clarence gripped the counter so hard his knuckles turned white. Let me be clear, Bobby continued. The Hells Angels are a documented criminal organization. They are involved in drug trafficking, weapons dealing, and violent crime across this nation. Their presence in Riverside is not welcome. It will not be tolerated. The reporter's voice cut in. Sheriff Tate, are you referring to the incident at the Georgia State Fair? Reports indicate that Hells Angels members helped reunite a lost child with her mother. Bobby's jaw tightened. I'm aware of that incident, and while I commend anyone who helps a child in distress, one good deed does not erase decades of criminal activity. These are dangerous individuals. Our children, our families, our community. They deserve protection. What actions are you taking? Effective immediately, I am increasing patrols throughout Riverside. Any motorcycle club members seen in our jurisdiction will be stopped and questioned. I am also urging local businesses to reconsider allowing these individuals on their premises. He looked directly into the camera. This is not about prejudice. This is about public safety. The people of Riverside elected me to keep them safe. That's exactly what I intend to do. The TV cut back to the studio. Clarence turned it off. The diner was silent, every customer staring at him, waiting.
Well,
Mrs. Patterson said quietly.
that was something.
Clarence said nothing. His hands were shaking. Not with fear, with anger. His phone buzzed again, this time a call. He didn't recognize the number. Hello?
Mr. Webb, this is Denise Johnson.
Her voice was trembling. Denise, what's wrong?
They're outside my house. 2 police cars. They've been sitting there for 20 minutes. Maya's scared. She keeps asking why the police are watching us.
Clarence closed his eyes. Are they doing anything? Approaching?
No, just sitting. Watching.
That's intimidation. Bobby's trying to scare you.
It's working.
Listen to me, Denise. You haven't done anything wrong. Neither has Maya. Neither have those bikers. Bobby Tate is throwing his weight around because he's scared. Scared that people might start seeing things differently.
What do I do?
You hold your head high. You go about your day. And if those officers do anything at all, you call me. You understand? A pause.
Why are you helping us? You barely know me.
Because it's the right thing to do. Because I spent 68 years being too scared to stand up when it mattered. And because your little girl reminded me what courage looks like. Silence on the line.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Clarence. Call me Clarence. He hung up and turned to face his diner, his customers, his community. Anyone here have a problem with what I'm about to say? No one moved. Good, because here's how it's going to be. Honey's Kitchen is open to everyone. Always has been. Always will be. Sheriff Tate can give all the press conferences he wants. He can park his deputies on every corner in town. But he doesn't get to tell me who I serve. Not now. Not ever. Mrs. Patterson started clapping again. This time the applause came faster, louder. Tamika wiped her eyes.
You're going to get yourself in trouble, boss.
Maybe. Clarence grabbed his spatula. But at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. The morning passed tensely. Customers came and went, but the conversations were hushed. Nervous glances toward the window every time a car drove by. Around noon, the bell jingled. Clarence looked up, expecting trouble. Instead, he saw Raven. She was alone. No leather vest today, just jeans and a simple black shirt. Her silver locks were pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired, worried. Raven. Clarence set down his coffee pot. You shouldn't be here. Bobby's got half the force looking for you.
I know.
She slid onto a stool at the counter.
I saw the press conference.
Then why come?
Because I needed to warn you.
Her eyes met his.
This isn't going to stop, Clarence. What you did for us, welcoming us, standing up in front of everyone. Bobby sees that as a personal betrayal. He's going to come after you.
Let him.
You don't understand. He's already started.
Clarence's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Raven pulled out her phone. This morning, the county health inspector showed up at 3 businesses that were friendly to us at the fair. 3 surprise inspections. All 3 got cited for violations.
That's not a coincidence.
No, it's not. She put the phone away. There's more. One of the vendors who gave us water after the search last night, his permit for the farmer's market got revoked this morning. No explanation, just revoked. Clarence felt sick. Bobby's punishing anyone who is kind to you. He's making an example, showing people what happens when they don't fall in line.
That's abuse of power.
It's Riverside, Georgia. Bobby Tate's been sheriff for 12 years. He's got friends in every office, every department, every corner of this county. He can make life very difficult for anyone who crosses him. Clarence was quiet for a moment, processing.
So, what are you telling me? That I should back down? Pretend last Saturday never happened?
Raven shook her head slowly. I'm telling you to be prepared, because what's coming? It's going to get worse before it gets better.
How much worse?
Before she could answer, the door burst open. Sheriff Bobby Tate stood in the entrance. 2 deputies flanked him. His hand rested on his belt. Well, well, well. His voice was cold. Isn't this cozy? Clarence stepped forward. Bobby, this is my place of business. You can't just, I can do whatever I need to do to protect this community. Bobby's eyes locked on Raven.
Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us.
Raven didn't move.
On what charge? Questioning. We've had reports of suspicious activity in the area. Need to ask you a few questions about your whereabouts and activities.
Reports from who? Bobby smiled. It didn't reach his eyes.
Concerned citizens.
Concerned citizens. Raven's voice was flat.
Right.
Bobby. Clarence stepped between them. She hasn't done anything wrong. She came here for lunch.
That's it.
Step aside, Clarence.
No.
The word hung in the air. Bobby's expression darkened. I'm not going to ask you again.
Good, because my answer's not going to change. This woman is a customer in my establishment. She's not bothering anyone. She's not breaking any laws. You want to take her in, you're going to need to charge her with something. And we both know you've got nothing.
The deputies shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a young guy Clarence recognized from church, looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Bobby leaned in close. His voice dropped to a whisper only Clarence could hear.
You're making a big mistake, old man. I've looked the other way on a lot of things over the years. Health code issues, fire safety concerns, permits that maybe weren't filed quite right.
Clarence's jaw tightened.
It would be a real shame, Bobby continued. If someone took a closer look at Honey's kitchen.
A real close look. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you friendly advice, from one old friend to another. Bobby straightened up and raised his voice again. This isn't over, not by a long shot. He turned and walked out. The deputies followed. The door slammed behind them. Silence. Raven let out a breath.
Clarence.
Don't. He held up a hand. Don't apologize. Don't tell me to back down. I made my choice. I'm standing by it.
He's going to destroy you.
He can try. Raven stared at him. Something shifted in her expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition.
You remind me of someone, she said quietly.
Who?
Denise. When we found her on that highway 12 years ago. Beat up, broke down, scared out of her mind. But underneath all that fear, steel. Pure steel. She was going to survive no matter what. I saw it in her eyes that night.
Raven reached across the counter and squeezed his hand.
I see it in yours now.
Clarence didn't know what to say, so he just nodded.
I should go,
Raven said,
before I cause you any more trouble.
You're not the one causing trouble.
No, but I'm the excuse he's using.
She stood.
Watch your back, Clarence. And watch out for Denise and Maya. Bobby's not going to stop at us. He's going to go after anyone connected to this, anyone who challenges his authority.
I'll keep an eye on them.
Thank you.
She paused at the door.
And Clarence?
Yeah?
There are more of us than you know.
People who want change. People who are tired of being afraid. You might have started something bigger than you realize. She was gone before he could respond. Clarence stood alone in his diner, the threat hanging over him like a thundercloud. Bobby Tate wasn't bluffing. He had power. He had reach. He could make good on every threat he'd made. But Clarence thought about Maya's smile, about Denise's tears of relief, about Raven's quiet strength and Big Marcus's firm handshake. He thought about his granddaughter Jasmine, about the world he wanted her to grow up in. A world where kindness wasn't weakness, where courage wasn't foolishness, where people could be judged by their actions, not their appearance. That world was worth fighting for, even if the fight cost him everything. The afternoon brought more trouble. At 2:15, a health inspector walked through the door, clipboard in hand, badge prominently displayed. Mr. Webb, I'm here for a surprise inspection. Clarence almost laughed. Of course you are. The inspection took 2 hours. Every corner examined, every surface swabbed, every document reviewed. In 40 years, Clarence had never failed a health inspection. He ran a clean kitchen, always had. But this inspector found problems. Your refrigerator is running at 39 degrees. Regulation requires 38 or below. It's always been 39. Never had an issue before. It's an issue now. That's a citation. This is ridiculous. Your hand-washing station soap dispenser is empty. I refilled it this morning. It's empty now. Clarence looked. The dispenser was bone dry. Someone had emptied it when he wasn't looking. That's another citation. By the end, Clarence had 6 citations. 6. More than he'd received in his entire career combined. You have 30 days to address these issues, the inspector said, not meeting his eyes. Failure to comply could result in closure. You know this is wrong. The inspector paused at the door. For just a moment, something like guilt flickered across his face. I'm just doing my job, Mr. Webb. Then he was gone. Tamika appeared at Clarence's side. Boss. I know. What are we going to do? Clarence stared at the citations in his hand. 40 years of perfect record. Wiped out in one afternoon by a vindictive sheriff with too much power. "We're going to fix these citations," he said slowly. "Every single one. By the book. And then we're going to keep doing what we've always done." "And if they come back? Find more problems?" Clarence set his jaw. "Then we fix those too. Bobby Tate thinks he can break me with paperwork and harassment. He doesn't know who he's dealing with." "Who is he dealing with?" Clarence looked at her. This young woman who had stood by him through everything, who had watched him take a stand and never once questioned it. He's dealing with someone who has nothing left to lose except his integrity. And I'll be damned if I let him take that. The phone rang. Clarence answered. "Honey's kitchen." "Mr. Webb." A voice he didn't recognize. Deep, formal. "My name is Raymond Cross. I'm an attorney with the Georgia Civil Liberties Union. I saw Sheriff Tate's press conference this morning, and I heard what happened at your diner this afternoon." Clarence's heart skipped. "How did you hear about that?" "Word travels fast when civil rights are being violated. I'd like to offer my services, pro bono." "Pro bono? You mean free?" "That's exactly what I mean. What Sheriff Tate is doing, the targeted harassment, the abuse of power, the intimidation of citizens exercising their constitutional rights, it's illegal, and I intend to prove it." Clarence sank onto a stool, his legs suddenly weak. "Mr. Cross, I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to make this bigger than it needs to be. With respect, Mr. Webb, it's already bigger than you realize. The Hells Angels have rights. You have rights. Denise Johnson and her daughter have rights. Sheriff Tate is trampling on all of them. If someone doesn't stand up, he'll keep doing it. To you, to them, to anyone who dares to think differently." Clarence was quiet for a long moment. "How did you really hear about this?" A pause. "I received a call this morning from someone named Raven." "Of course." "She told me what you did," the attorney continued. "How you welcomed them into your diner. How you stood up to the sheriff in front of your customers. How you refused to back down even when threatened." "I just did what was right." "That's exactly why I want to help you. Because people who do what's right, especially when it's hard, especially when it costs them, those are the people worth fighting for." Clarence looked around his diner, the tables where 3 generations had shared meals, the counter where his father had taught him to cook, the kitchen where he'd built his life. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay, Mr. Cross. What do we do?" "First, we document everything, every citation, every threat, every interaction with law enforcement. Then we start building a case, not just against the harassment, but against the systemic abuse of power." "That sounds like it could take years." "It might, but sometimes the fight isn't just about winning. It's about showing others that they can fight too." Clarence nodded slowly, even though the attorney couldn't see him. "When can you come to Riverside?" "I'll be there tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. We'll go over everything." "I'll have coffee waiting." "I look forward to it, Mr. Webb. And thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me why I became a lawyer in the first place." The line went dead. Clarence set down the phone and looked at Tamika. "Well," he said, "it looks like we've got ourselves a lawyer." "What does that mean?" "It means Bobby Tate wanted a fight." Clarence straightened his apron. "Now he's got one." That night, Clarence stayed late at the diner, alone, going through files, organizing documents, preparing for whatever came next. At 9 o'clock, headlights swept across the parking lot. He looked up. A single motorcycle pulled in, then another, then another. Clarence walked to the window. 6 bikes total. Big Marcus in front, Raven behind him. 4 others Clarence recognized from that morning at the fair. They parked in a neat row,
Engines went silent. Kickstands went down. Clarence opened the door. Big Marcus approached. His face was serious. "We heard what happened today. The inspection, the threats. News travels fast. It does when family's involved." Clarence blinked. "Family?" Big Marcus stopped in front of him, this massive man with his scarred face and tattooed arms. This Hell's Angel that society had taught Clarence to fear his entire life. "You stood up for us," Big Marcus said. "When you didn't have to. When it cost you. When everyone else would have looked the other way." He extended his hand. "That makes you family." Clarence took it. "We're not going to let Bobby Tate destroy you," Big Marcus continued. "Whatever you need, money, lawyers, people to stand with you, you've got it. All of it." "I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. We're offering. That's what family does." Raven stepped forward. "We've already reached out to chapters across the state. Word spreading about what's happening in Riverside. About a diner owner who had the guts to do what no one else would. People are listening, Clarence. More than you know." Clarence felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. "I've got a lawyer coming tomorrow," he said. "From the Georgia Civil Liberties Union." Big Marcus nodded. "Good. You fight this in the courts. We'll fight it in the streets." "What does that mean?" Big Marcus smiled. "It means Bobby Tate's not the only one with friends." They stayed for an hour, planning, talking, building something that felt like more than just a defense. It felt like a movement. When they finally left, Clarence stood in the doorway watching their taillights disappear into the night. His phone buzzed. A text from Denise. "Thank you for today. Maya says to tell you you're brave. She wants to bring you a drawing tomorrow." Clarence smiled. Another text, this one from Martha. "Saw the news. Proud of you, old man. Come home. Dinner's getting cold." He locked up the diner and headed to his car. Tomorrow would bring more battles, more threats, more uncertainty. But tonight, Clarence Webb knew something he hadn't known in a long time. He wasn't alone. And neither was anyone who stood with him. Raymond Cross arrived at exactly 9 o'clock the next morning. He was younger than Clarence expected, maybe 45. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. He carried a leather briefcase that looked like it had seen 100 courtrooms. "Mr. Webb," he shook Clarence's hand firmly. "Thank you for meeting with me." "Thank you for coming. Coffee?" "Black, please." They sat at the corner booth. Clarence had already laid out all his documents, citations, records. 40 years of perfect inspections suddenly marred by 6 violations in one afternoon. Raymond studied everything in silence. His expression grew darker with each page. "This is textbook retaliation," he said finally. "Sheriff Tate isn't even trying to hide it." "Can you prove that?" "I can prove a pattern. The timing is too convenient. 3 days after you welcome Hell's Angels into your diner, suddenly you have 6 health code violations? After 40 years of perfect record?" Raymond pulled out his own files. "But here's what's interesting. You're not the only one. Since that press conference, 14 businesses in Riverside have received surprise inspections. 8 got citations. All 14 had some connection, however small, to the bikers or to you." Clarence stared. 14? Earl Simmons from the hardware store? He shook Big Marcus's hand at your diner. Got cited for electrical violations yesterday. Maria Gonzalez at the flower shop? She sold flowers to Denise Johnson. Health department showed up this morning claiming her refrigeration unit was too warm. This is insane. This is systematic abuse of power. Raymond closed the files. And it's exactly what I've been waiting for. What do you mean?
Sheriff Bobby Tate has been operating like this for years, using his position to reward friends and punish enemies. But he's always been careful, smart. He knew how to stay just inside the line. Raymond leaned forward. But this situation with the Hells Angels? It's personal for him. He's emotional, sloppy, and he's finally making mistakes we can document. So what's the plan? First, I file an injunction to stop the harassment. Then I subpoena records from every inspection conducted in the last week. Then I start deposing the inspectors. I want to know who gave the orders. I want it on record. And if Bobby pushes back? Raymond smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Then I take this to the state level. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation has been looking for an excuse to investigate Tate for years. This could be exactly what they need. The bell above the door jingled. Clarence looked up. Denise walked in, Maya at her side. The little girl was clutching a piece of paper to her chest.
Mr. Clarence! Maya ran toward him. I made you something! She thrust the paper into his hands. It was a drawing, crude but beautiful. A building that said, Honey's Kitchen, above the door, a row of motorcycles out front, and, standing in the middle, a group of people holding hands, some in leather vests, some in aprons, and one tiny figure with yellow braids. That's me, Maya pointed.
And that's you. And that's Big Marcus and Raven. We're all family now. Clarence felt his throat tighten. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. Maya beamed. Denise sat down across from Raymond. I got your message. You said you needed to talk to me? Ms. Johnson, Raymond extended his hand. I'm building a case against Sheriff Tate. Your story, the night at the fair, the police cars outside your house, any harassment you've experienced. It's all relevant. I don't want to make trouble. The trouble's already here. The question is whether we fight back or let it roll over us. Denise was quiet. She looked at Maya, who was now sitting on Clarence's knee, pointing out different details in her drawing. When I was 19, Denise said slowly, I was too scared to fight. Too scared to stand up for myself. I let a man hurt me because I thought I didn't have a choice. Her voice hardened. I promised myself I would never be that scared again. I promised myself I would never teach my daughter to be that scared. She looked at Raymond. Tell me what you need. Raymond pulled out a recorder. Start from the beginning. The interview lasted 2 hours. Denise told her story. The night on Route 23, the bikers who saved her, the years of rebuilding, the fair, the reunion, and everything that had happened since. Raymond listened without interrupting. When she finished, his jaw was tight. Ms. Johnson, what you've described, both 12 years ago and now, represents a fundamental failure of the system that was supposed to protect you. Law enforcement ignored your calls for help when you were fleeing abuse, and now law enforcement is actively harassing you for associating with the people who actually helped. That's the way it's always been. It doesn't have to stay that way. The door opened again. Clarence looked up, expecting more customers. Instead, he saw Sheriff Bobby Tate, alone this time. No deputies, no badge on display. Just Bobby in civilian clothes, hands in his pockets. Morning, Clarence. Raymond stood. Sheriff Tate, this is highly inappropriate. I'm counsel for Mr. Webb. Any communication should go through me. I'm not here as sheriff. Bobby's voice was calm, too calm. I'm here as a neighbor, as someone who's known Clarence for 30 years. I have nothing to say to you, Clarence said. Just hear me out. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Raymond started to object, but Clarence held up his hand. 5 minutes. Bobby slid into the booth next to Denise, who immediately pulled Maya closer. The little girl stared at the sheriff with wide, wary eyes. "I know how this looks," Bobby began. "I know you think I'm the villain here, the big bad sheriff trying to run the bikers out of town." "That's exactly what you're doing." "I'm trying to protect people, Clarence. That's all I've ever done. For 12 years I've kept this town safe. Low crime, good schools. Families feel secure here."
By harassing innocent people? By threatening business owners? By using your power to punish anyone who disagrees with you?
Bobby's jaw tightened. "The Hells Angels are not innocent people. They're a criminal organization. I've seen the files, Clarence. I know what they're capable of."
"Do you know what they did for me?"
Denise's voice cut through the tension.
12 years ago.
Bobby turned to her. "I was pregnant, alone, running from a man who beat me so badly I couldn't see out of my left eye. I called the police. You know what they told me? 'It's a domestic matter, ma'am. Work it out with your husband.'" Her voice shook with controlled anger. "I drove until my car broke down. Middle of nowhere, middle of the night. And the only people who stopped, the only people who helped me, were Hell's Angels. They fixed my car, gave me money, made sure I was safe." She leaned forward. "Where were you, Sheriff? Where was law enforcement when I needed them?" Bobby said nothing. "And now you want to punish me for being grateful? For teaching my daughter that sometimes help comes from unexpected places?" "I'm not trying to punish you. Then what do you call parking police cars outside my house? What do you call scaring my 7-year-old daughter?" Maya buried her face in her mother's side. Bobby looked at the little girl. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe. Or shame. "I have a granddaughter," he said quietly. "She's 6. Same age as your girl." "Then you should understand." "I understand that I've spent my whole career fighting people like the Hells Angels. I've seen the damage they do, the lives they destroy." "Have you seen the lives they save?" Bobby didn't answer. "One good deed," he started. "It wasn't one good deed." Clarence cut him off. "It was a pattern, a code. They protect children. They help veterans. They do things that nobody else will do because everyone's too scared or too prejudiced to see past the leather vests." "How do you know that?" "Because I asked. Because I listened. Because I treated them like human beings instead of criminals." The words hung in the air. Bobby looked around the diner, at Clarence, who had been his friend for 3 decades, at Denise, whose eyes blazed with righteous anger, at Maya, who was peeking out from behind her mother, watching him with a child's uncomplicated judgment, at Raymond Cross, who sat with arms folded, already planning the lawsuit that would end Bobby's career. "Your 5 minutes are up," Clarence said. Bobby stood slowly. "This isn't over." "No," Raymond said. "It's not. I'm filing an injunction this afternoon, and a formal complaint with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I suggest you get yourself a lawyer, Sheriff. A good one." Bobby's face went pale. "You're making a mistake. All of you." "The only mistake," Clarence said, "was thinking you could bully people into silence. Now get out of my diner." Bobby left without another word. The door closed behind him. Maya looked up at her mother. "Is the bad man gone?" Denise held her tight. "Yes, baby. He's gone." "Good. I don't like him." "Neither do I." Raymond was already on his phone. "I need to make some calls. This changes the timeline. We need to move faster." "How fast?" "I want that injunction filed by end of business today, and I'm calling my contact at the GBI right now. Bobby Tate just showed up to intimidate a witness. That's obstruction of justice." He stepped outside to make his calls. Clarence sat down heavily. His hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't from anger. It was from relief. "You okay?
Denise asked. I'm not sure. He looked at Maya's drawing, still clutched in his hand.
I've known Bobby Tate for 30 years. Watched him grow from a deputy to sheriff. Called him a friend. People change. Or maybe we just finally see who they really are. Tamika appeared from the kitchen. Boss, you need to see this. She held up her phone. On the screen was a social media post, a video. It had been viewed over 50,000 times in the last hour. The video showed the confrontation at the fair. Someone had filmed it. The whole thing. The bikers searching for Denise, the reunion. The cop trying to intervene, Denise standing her ground. The comments were pouring in. This is beautiful. Faith in humanity restored. Hell's Angels helping a lost child. Not what I expected. That mother is a warrior. Standing up to that cop like that? Why is the sheriff harassing these people? They're heroes. Share this. Everyone needs to see who the real good guys are. Clarence stared at the numbers. 50,000 views. 60,000. Climbing by the minute. It's going viral, Tamika said. People are sharing it everywhere. Who posted this? No idea. Anonymous account. But look at the hashtag. Clarence squinted at the screen. Hashtag Riverside Stands Up. There are hundreds of posts with this hashtag, Tamika continued. People from all over Georgia, all over the country. They're talking about what's happening here, about you, about the bikers, about Bobby Tate. Denise took the phone, her eyes filled with tears. People are listening, she whispered. They're actually listening. Raymond burst back through the door. His face was flushed with excitement. You're not going to believe this. We already saw the video, Clarence said. Not just the video. I just got off the phone with my contact at the GBI. They've been building a case against Bobby Tate for 2 years. Corruption, abuse of power, cover-ups. They just didn't have enough evidence to move forward. He slammed his briefcase on the table. Until now. The video, the documented harassment, your testimonies. It's exactly what they needed. They're opening an official investigation. Today. Clarence felt the room spin. What does that mean? It means Bobby Tate's reign is over. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. He's done. Maya tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mama, did we win? Denise laughed through her tears. I think we might be winning, baby. The rest of the day passed in a blur. More customers came than Clarence had seen in years. Some from Riverside, some from neighboring towns, some who had driven hours just to eat at that diner from the video. They all wanted the same thing, to shake Clarence's hand, to hear the story, to be part of something bigger than themselves. By evening, the diner was packed, every booth full, people standing along the walls. Tamika had called in 2 extra staff members just to keep up. And then, at 7 o'clock, the rumble started. Low at first, then louder and louder. Clarence walked to the window. Motorcycles, dozens of them, rolling down Main Street in perfect formation, Hell's Angels patches gleaming under the streetlights. They pulled into the Honey's Kitchen parking lot, filled it completely, spilled over into the street. Big Marcus dismounted first, then Raven, then more and more bikers than Clarence could count. He stepped outside. What is this? Big Marcus grinned. This is family, old man, from 6 different chapters across Georgia. They all wanted to come, to meet the diner owner who stood up when everyone else sat down. Raven stepped forward. Word spread. About what you did. About what's happening here. People wanted to show their support. There must be 50 of you. 73, and more coming tomorrow. Clarence looked at the sea of leather and chrome, at the faces, Hard faces, scarred faces, tattooed faces, all looking at him with something like respect.
I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything.
Big Marcus put a hand on his shoulder.
You already said it. When you welcomed us in. When you told Bobby Tate to go to hell. When you stood up for what was right. He turned to face the crowd of bikers. This man, he announced, his voice carrying across the lot, is one of us. He might not wear the patch, he might not ride a bike, but he's got the heart of a Hell's Angel, and tonight, we're going to make damn sure everyone knows it. A cheer went up from the crowd. Clarence felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to hide them. Inside the diner, Denise watched through the window. Maya pressed against the glass, her face lit up with wonder.
Mama, look at all the motorcycles.
I see them, baby.
They came for Mr. Clarence.
They came for all of us. Maya turned to look at her mother.
Are we safe now?
Denise thought about the video spreading across the internet, the investigation into Bobby Tate, the lawyer fighting for them, the community rallying around them. She thought about 12 years ago, a broken-down car, a rainy highway, a group of strangers who stopped when no one else would.
Yes, baby.
She pulled Maya into her arms.
I think we finally are.
Outside, the celebration continued. Clarence moved through the crowd, shaking hands, accepting hugs, hearing story after story from bikers who had traveled hundreds of miles just to be here. A young man with tattoos covering both arms grabbed his hand. My daughter was being bullied at school. Hell's Angels showed up for her, made sure those kids never bothered her again. An older woman with silver hair and a leather vest smiled at him.
My husband was a veteran. PTSD so bad he couldn't leave the house.
The club visited him every week, brought him food, sat with him, made him feel like he still mattered. A massive man with tears in his eyes told Clarence about his son. Overdosed 3 years ago. Thought I'd lost him forever. The club got him into rehab, paid for it, visited him every single day. He's been clean for 2 years now. Story after story, life after life, kindness after kindness. All from people the world had taught Clarence to fear. At 9 o'clock, Big Marcus called for silence. The crowd gathered around him. 73 of us rode here today. From Augusta, from Savannah, from Atlanta, from towns most people have never heard of. We rode because we heard about what's happening in Riverside, about a sheriff who thinks he can push people around, about a town that's starting to push back. He turned to face Clarence. But mostly, we rode because of this man, Clarence Webb, 68 years old, been running this diner for 40 years, never had a bad word to say about anybody, never caused any trouble. His voice rose. And when the moment came, when he had to choose between safety and doing what's right, he chose right. He chose us. He chose to see us as people, not stereotypes. He chose to stand up when everyone else would have looked away. Big Marcus raised his fist. That's the kind of man we ride for. That's the kind of man we fight for. That's the kind of man who gives us hope that maybe, just maybe, the world can change. The crowd roared. Clarence stood in the center of it all, this 68-year-old diner owner surrounded by Hell's Angels, and he felt something he hadn't felt in decades. He felt like he belonged. The night stretched on. More stories, more laughter, more connections formed between people who never should have met. And somewhere in the crowd, Maya sat on Big Marcus's shoulders, yellow braids swinging, laughing with pure joy. The little girl who got lost at a fair. The little girl who found her way to the most unlikely saviors. The little girl who changed everything. 3 months later, everything had changed.
Sheriff Bobby Tate stood before a judge in the Riverside County Courthouse, his hands trembling at his sides. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, people standing along the walls, cameras from 3 different news stations capturing every moment. Clarence sat in the front row, Denise beside him, Maya on her lap. Behind them, a row of leather vests, Big Marcus, Raven, dozens of Hell's Angels who had driven from across the state to witness this moment. The judge cleared his throat. Robert Allen Tate, you have been found guilty of abuse of power, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, and corruption. The evidence presented by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was overwhelming. The testimonies were damning. Bobby's lawyer put a hand on his shoulder. Bobby shook it off. Before I deliver sentencing, the judge continued, do you have anything to say? Bobby stood slowly. He turned to face the courtroom. His eyes found Clarence. For a long moment, neither man spoke. I thought I was doing the right thing, Bobby said finally. His voice was hoarse, broken. I thought I was protecting people. You were protecting yourself, Clarence replied quietly. There's a difference. Bobby's jaw tightened. He turned back to the judge. I have nothing else to say. The judge nodded. Robert Allen Tate, I hereby sentence you to 8 years in federal prison for your crimes against the citizens of Riverside and the state of Georgia. May this serve as a reminder that no one is above the law. The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted. Maya tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mama, what happened? Justice, baby. Denise wiped tears from her eyes. Justice happened. Bobby was led away in handcuffs. As he passed Clarence's row, he paused. The deputies let him stop for just a moment. You destroyed my life, Bobby said. Clarence shook his head. No. You destroyed your own life. I just held up a mirror. Bobby stared at him for a long moment. Then something in his expression shifted. Not quite acceptance, but something close. Maybe you're right, he whispered. Then he was gone. Outside the courthouse, the celebration began. Reporters swarmed around Clarence, shoving microphones in his face. Mr. Webb, how does it feel to see justice served? What message do you have for other small business owners facing harassment? Is it true you've become an honorary member of the Hells Angels? Clarence held up his hands. Please, one at a time. Big Marcus stepped forward, his massive frame creating a barrier between Clarence and the press. Mr. Webb will answer your questions, he announced. But first, he's going to spend some time with his family. Family? Clarence looked around, at Denise and Maya, at Raven and the bikers, at Tamika and his wife Martha, who had driven up from the diner, at Raymond Cross, who was already fielding calls from other clients inspired by this victory. Family didn't always look the way you expected. Sometimes it looked like this. They retreated to Honey's kitchen, which Tamika had closed for the day. A private celebration. Just family. The diner was transformed. Streamers hung from the ceiling, Maya's contribution. A cake sat on the counter with "Justice" written in blue frosting. Someone had put up a banner that read, "We did it." Clarence stood in the doorway taking it all in. Martha slipped her hand into his. You okay, old man? Better than okay. He squeezed her hand. I'm proud. You should be. What you did, standing up like that, it took courage. It took all of us. Maya ran up to him, her yellow beads bouncing. Mr. Clarence, I have something for you. She thrust another drawing into his hands. This one was different from the first. More detailed, more colorful. It showed the courthouse, the judge, Bobby in handcuffs, and standing in front of it all, a group of people holding hands. Bikers and regular folks, black and white, old and young. That's all of us, Maya explained. That's our family. Clarence knelt down to her level. This is beautiful, sweetheart. I'm going to frame it. Hang it right next to the first one. Really? Really. These two drawings, they tell the whole story. How we started, and how we ended up. Together. Maya hugged him tight. Big Marcus approached with 2 bottles of beer. He handed one to Clarence. You drink? On special occasions. I think this qualifies. They clinked bottles. What happens now? Clarence asked. With you and the club. Big Marcus took a long sip. Same as always. We ride. We look out for each other. We help people who need help. Think Riverside will be different? After everything? I think Riverside already is different. Big Marcus nodded toward the crowd in the diner. Look at this. 3 months ago, if you'd told me a bunch of Hell's Angels would be celebrating in a family diner in small-town Georgia, I would have laughed. But here we are. Here we are. You did that, Clarence. You opened the door. You showed people that we're not what they think we are, that we're just people. You showed them that yourselves. I just gave you the opportunity. Big Marcus smiled. Maybe that's what it takes. Someone willing to give us a chance. Raven joined them, her silver locks gleaming under the diner lights. I just got off the phone with our national president, she said. Word about Riverside has spread everywhere. Chapters across the country are talking about what happened here. They're inspired. Inspired to do what? To reach out, to their communities, to try what you tried, building bridges instead of walls. Clarence felt something swell in his chest. You think it'll work? Other places? I think it already is. 3 chapters in Texas have started community outreach programs. 2 in California are partnering with local schools. 1 in Florida is working with a domestic violence shelter, helping women escape bad situations, just like we helped Denise. She put her hand on Clarence's shoulder. You started a movement, old man. You might not have meant to, but you did. Denise appeared at his side. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. Clarence, I need to tell you something. What's that? I got a call this morning from a publisher in New York. They want me to write a book about everything that happened. The night on Route 23, the fair, the fight against Bobby Tate. All of it. Clarence's eyes widened. A book? They think our story could help other people. Women in bad situations, communities dealing with prejudice, anyone who feels alone and scared and thinks no one will help. What did you tell them? I told them I needed to think about it, because it's not just my story. She looked at Big Marcus, at Raven, at Clarence. It's our story. All of ours. I won't tell it unless everyone agrees. Big Marcus nodded slowly. Tell it. The world needs to hear it. Are you sure? It means putting everything out there. The good and the bad. The club's past. The mistakes. Everything. We've never been ashamed of who we are, and if telling our story helps one person, one scared woman, one lost kid, one community ready to change, then it's worth it. Raven agreed. Tell it. All of it. Clarence smiled. I think you have your answer. Denise laughed through fresh tears. I guess I'm writing a book. Maya bounced up. Mama's going to be famous. We're all going to be famous, baby. Even Mr. Clarence? Especially Mr. Clarence. The little girl ran to hug the old man again. You're the best, Mr. Clarence. No, sweetheart. You're the best. You started all of this, remember? When you were brave enough to walk up to a bunch of scary-looking bikers and ask for help. Maya giggled. They're not scary. They're just big and loud. That's right. And sometimes the biggest, loudest people have the softest hearts. The celebration continued into the evening. Stories were shared. Laughter echoed off the walls. At one point, Big Marcus taught Maya how to arm wrestle, letting her win every time. Raven braided Martha's hair, while Tamika took photos. Raymond Cross gave an impromptu speech about civil rights that had everyone in tears. And through it all, Clarence watched. This diner that had been in his family for 3 generations, these people who had become his family in just 3 months. This moment that felt like the end of one story and the beginning of another. Around 8 o'clock, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Webb, my name is Sarah Chen. I'm a producer for 60 Minutes. We'd like to do a story on what happened in Riverside. Would you be willing to talk?" Clarence stared at the message. 60 minutes. He showed it to Martha. "What should I say?" She smiled. "What do you want to say?" He thought about it, about the attention it would bring, the scrutiny, the invasion of privacy. But he also thought about Denise's book, about the chapters across the country starting their own outreach programs, about the movement Raven said he'd started. "I want to say yes," he admitted. "Not for me, but because maybe our story can help other people see what I saw. That kindness can come from anywhere, that courage can change everything." Martha kissed his cheek. "Then say yes." He typed out his response. "I'd be honored. Let's talk." He hit send. Big Marcus appeared beside him. "Everything okay?" 60 Minutes wants to do a story about us." Big Marcus let out a low whistle. "National television. That's big." "Too big?" "No such thing as too big. Not anymore. The whole point of what we did, what you did, was to change the conversation, to show people something different. National TV? That's exactly where the conversation needs to happen." Clarence nodded. "You'll do it with me? The interview?" "Brother, I'll do anything with you. You're family now. Remember?" Family. That word kept coming up, because that's what this was, what it had become, what it would always be. At 9 o'clock, Clarence stood up and clinked his beer bottle against a glass. The room quieted. "I want to say something," he announced. "If you'll all indulge an old man for a minute." "You've earned more than a minute," someone shouted. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Clarence waited for it to die down. 3 months ago, I was a 68-year-old diner owner who thought he knew how the world worked. I had my beliefs, my prejudices, my fears. I thought I was a good man, but I never really tested that. Never had to." He paused. "Then a little girl got lost at a fair, and she was brave enough to ask for help from people everyone told her to fear. And those people, you people, proved that everything I thought I knew was wrong." His voice cracked. "You saved her. You saved her mother. And in doing so, you saved me. You showed me that the world doesn't have to be the way I thought it was, that people can surprise you. That courage can be contagious." He raised his bottle. "To Maya, the bravest warrior I know." "To Maya!" the room echoed. Maya blushed and buried her face in her mother's side. "To Denise, who survived things I can't imagine and came out stronger." "To Denise!" To Big Marcus and Raven and every Hell's Angel who dropped everything to help a stranger. Who proved that family isn't about blood. It's about choice. To family! And to Riverside, this little town that taught me you're never too old to learn, never too set in your ways to change, never too small to make a difference. He lowered his bottle. "I don't know what comes next. The book, the interviews, whatever else this journey brings. But I know one thing for certain. He looked around the room at the faces that had become so dear to him. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, with exactly the right people, and I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. The room erupted in applause. Maya broke free from her mother and ran to Clarence. He scooped her up in his arms.
I love you, Mr. Clarence.
I love you too, little warrior.
Are we going to be friends forever?
Forever and ever.
Promise?
He looked at her face. This beautiful child who had changed everything, who had walked into a group of hell's angels with nothing but her mother's words and her own courage, who had shown an entire town, an entire country, what it meant to see people for who they really are. I promise, he said, and he meant it. The night wound down slowly. Bikers said their goodbyes and rode off into the darkness, engines roaring, taillights fading into the Georgia night. They would be back. They always would. Denise carried a sleeping Maya to the car. The little girl's head rested on her mother's shoulder, her yellow beads tangled in Denise's braids.
Thank you, Clarence,
For everything. Thank you for trusting us. For trusting me. It wasn't hard. You have kind eyes. Maya saw it right away. Kids always know. She drove off into the night. Tamika finished cleaning up and headed home, hugging Clarence extra tight before she left. Raymond Cross shook his hand firmly. This isn't the end, you know. There's more work to do. More fights to fight.
I know. And I'm ready.
I believe you are. Finally, it was just Clarence and Martha. They stood in the empty diner, the smell of coffee and celebration still lingering in the air. Quite a day, Martha said.
Quite a 3 months.
Any regrets? Clarence thought about it. The threats, the harassment, the moments of fear when he wondered if he was doing the right thing. Not a single one. Martha smiled. That's my man. They locked up the diner and walked to the car. Clarence paused at the door and looked back. Honey's Kitchen. 40 years of his life, 3 generations of his family, and now the birthplace of something new, a movement that was spreading across the country, a story that would be told for generations, a reminder that change was always possible, always. He got in the car. Martha reached over and took his hand.
Ready to go home?
He looked at her. This woman who had stood by him through everything, who had believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. They drove through the quiet streets of Riverside, past the courthouse where justice had been served, past the fairgrounds where it all began, past the Iron Horse Bar where a little girl found her angels. The moon hung full and bright above them, and somewhere in the distance the rumble of motorcycles echoed through the night. Not a threat, a promise. That family would always find each other. That courage would always prevail. That sometimes the people the world tells you to fear are the very ones who will save you. Maya had taught them all that. A 7-year-old girl with yellow beads in her hair and a heart full of trust. She had been lost. Now they were all found. And that was the most beautiful ending, and the most beautiful beginning. Because in the end, that's what courage does. It doesn't just save one person. It saves everyone brave enough to follow. And in Riverside, Georgia, they had all learned to be brave. Together. Forever. Family.